Hello and welcome back again. Today we're going to talk about self-hosting host preparation. That is the things you need to do in order to prepare a host for this self-hosting. Target hosts that benefit from advanced preparation include bare metal host, your LXC, LXD containers, and virtual machines. Since Docker containers are self-contained applications, they have no preparation requirements. Preparation sometimes involves creating a template for LXC, LXD, or VMs. Preparing a host entails installing certain dependencies or basic programs and utilities that serve as a starting point for installing a self-hosted application. So here's some examples. First of all, when you start with a new server, you should, and by the way, I want to point out the fact that when we're talking about new servers here, my go-to for a server instance to install a self-hosted application is generally Ubuntu server. The reason is it's extremely stable, and in the server instance, it's quite lean. So you want to start out by updating the system, sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade. Keep it up to date. Then you want to create a user account because by default, either you won't have anything but root or you'll have a standard user account like Ubuntu. And you want to go off and create your own user account for security. So, let's say the user's name was newuser. You do a sudo adduser newuser. And then, of course, since you're going to do administration with this, you're going to want to add it to the sudo group with this command. Then the next thing you're going to want is you're going to want to install the SSH server so that you can SSH into this system remotely. So sudo apt install openssh-server. Then another thing is you're going to want to install software properties common to manage repositories. Sometimes you'll come along with a command and it'll ask you to install this. So up front, it's a good idea to do a sudo apt install software-properties-common. NetTools is another nice one to have. It's got several network commands. Ifconfig is the most common. So sudo apt install net-tools. And then install an editor. Sudo apt install nano or your favorite editor. By default in server, usually Ubuntu server, usually you'll find VI. I like nano. There's other ones. It kind of depends on what your personal preference is. Install curl to transfer data. Sudo apt install curl. And then install wget to download files. And yes, there is a fine line between the differences in the way that curl works, which is more to transfer data, and wget, which is more to download files. So some more examples. Install Docker. There's a very nice script to install Docker. It's a curl script. We've just installed curl, right? And then you want to add yourself to the Docker group so you don't have to do a sudo every time you're doing your Docker commands. And then more than likely, if you're going to install Docker, you're going to want to install the Docker compose command. And then you might want to install snapd. So I have a previous video that talks a lot about how to create LXD and LXD containers, and we installed snapd in preparation for that. So snaps are software packages that include a lot more dependencies and actually multiple programs. So once we have snapd installed, hey, let's go ahead and install LXD like we did in that other video. And then another one that's real common is gnupg, which is the Open Privacy Guard, OpenPGP. If you install that, then you're going to have the ability to do some encryption things that a lot of self-hosted applications will need. And then likewise install certbot. So certbot you can do it apt-add apt repository for certbot PPA. It'll ask you to hit an extra enter, an extra return in order to get this repository into Ubuntu. And then, depending upon whether you're going to use the Nginx web server or you're going to use the Apache web server, you're going to install one of these two commands to actually install certbot. And we can make an entire video on certbot, but we're not going to do that right now. And then installing GitHub. A lot of times, a self-hosted application, the source code will be up in GitHub, and you'll be asked to use a git command to go get it. And consequently, you'll do a sudo apt install git to go do that. And then probably one of the biggest things is there are a whole lot of applications out there that ask you to install a LAMP stack. So LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. It's not necessarily always MySQL. It's some variant of MySQL, Maria database or some other. But LAMP stacks are real common. So obviously the Linux comes from the Linux you're running. Sudo apt install Apache 2 would install Apache. You can check the status of Apache with the systemctl command. And then you want to install PHP, and then these modules here that support PHP. And you can check your PHP version. A lot of programs require a particular PHP version. And then you can restart Apache 2, which you have to do because you install PHP afterwards, and Apache has to know about PHP. And then you're going to do a sudo apt install on either MariaDB server or in the client, or you're going to do a sudo apt install of MySQL server. The first is if you're running Ubuntu 18.04, and the second is if you're running Ubuntu 20.04. And then a sudo systemctl status MariaDB to see how it's running, or consequently MySQL server. And then a secure installation. This is a really good idea to do. It runs off and asks you several questions and has you and secures a database. So that's a LAMP stack. LAMP stacks are things that are asked for frequently in these installations. So in summary, installing some of these programs covered can significantly simplify your self-hosting application installation. Building templates to use as a starting point ensures better configuration control. So some things like VMs allow you to build a VM and then save that VM off as either a snapshot or a template that you can use to build future VMs. And LXD and LXC and LXD, a lot of those allow you to build a template and save them off. I'm thinking of things like QNAP Container Station lets you do that. Proxmox lets you do that. So templates are great as starting points for the common applications that you're going to be using. And then installing a common set of tools makes working with server instances easier post-installation. Anyway, thanks for coming today. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.